Yo, what's going on, guys? The Kitty G on EGTV, and we're back again with another video. Big up to everybody watching right now. We already got 14 of you guys in the chat. Do me a favor, help a brother out. Hit that like button and subscribe button if you're new. And if you want to help out the channel, let us know what questions you have for Sam or for myself throughout the show. Please engage in the chat and let us know whatever you guys are doing. Please be nice to one another. We do not want people in the chat cussing one another. So please have a nice and healthy environment and be nice to one another. And also, welcome my guest, Sam, first time on the channel. How are you?
I'm all good. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be able to share my opinions today. Whether people agree or not is another case, but we'll try.
There you go. There you go. If you guys don't know Sam is on Twitter, and he's one of the guys who take the loan to Marseille thing very serious. And I find that funny because a lot of people said they were going to do it, but you actually paid attention to all the games. If I'm not mistaken, you were watching majority of the Marseille games. Did you miss a game all season?
I think there was one or two games that maybe I was like out or something, but I would say I watched like 90% of games all season, whether that was on TV or, like I said, I went out there for a game myself as well. The Lyon match a couple weeks, well, it was just over a month ago now.
Nice. And obviously you've been following Saliba and Guendouzi's time over in Marseille. And just before we go on to that, obviously you're an Arsenal fan. How did you become an Arsenal fan? Let's talk about that first.
Well, I'm not from London. I'm from Cardiff, and it was a case of just every weekend. My mum would take me to her friend's house, and they were all Arsenal fans. So it was always Arsenal on the TV. So they were the team I was brought up watching. Sort of shirts were handed down, so it was just all things Arsenal, which were given to me. So obviously I got into watching them, and I've been watching them now ever since.
Nice. Similar story for myself, man. Got into Arsenal very young, 98 World Cup. Got me into football, and then from there just fall in love with Arsenal, man. But yeah, let's get straight into it because there's a lot to talk about today. Big up to everybody in the chat. I see Arsenal Presser in the chat. I see Lenny in the chat. I see Sam in the chat. I see Cam in the chat. Big up to you guys. There is a question in the poll. The first question is, do you see Saliba's future at Arsenal, and could you see him playing at Arsenal next season? So I'm going to ask you, Sam, since we are going to be talking about Saliba's future, let's get straight into it. Do you think Saliba's future will be at Arsenal next season?
If I had to give a definitive answer, I would probably say yes. But for that to happen as well, I think he would have to sign the new deal because he's only got, so as next season starts, he'd only have 2 years left on his contract. So I think it'll be a case from Arsenal this summer saying, you sign this contract and commit your future and we'll play you. Or if you don't sign it, we'd risk losing you for a reduced fee or maybe free in 2 years' time. So I think he'd have to sign that contract to stay. But I have been reading that there's a lot of interest. Obviously, Marseille, but I've seen Atletico Madrid. I think Newcastle would like him as part of their rebuild, Leicester. So all these clubs have been keeping tabs on his season and obviously been impressed with how incredible he's been. And obviously he got his first call up for France as well a couple months back, and now he's with the senior squad again. So he's showing like he's reaching new heights all the time.
There you go. And Saliba honestly had an outstanding season. And I feel like a lot of people were watching him from a distance, like myself. I was only watching games here and there, and he did look good in the Europa League, and he did look good against PSG in that game. But on the season on a whole, how good has he been? Because statistically, it looks like he's been one of the best center backs in that league, obviously, and he's been one of the best young players. And we know the award that he won has been won by the likes of Zidane, Henry, and some of the greats in France. So do you think this guy could become a superstar? Because, like, let's be honest, we don't have that many players with that high potential in the squad. Maybe Bukayo Saka, Emma Smith-Rowe, Martinelli, but that's it.
Yeah.
I
think he can reach those heights because the award he won, the Ligue 1 Espoirs for the Young Player of the Season, that was previously held by Chouameni and before that Mbappe. And those are players that are talked about for 100 million. So it just goes to show the caliber of players that win this. And in terms of his actual season, if I'm not wrong, he was Marseille's second most used player, only behind Guendouzi. And the only games he missed were he was rested for a cup game in which they played against a third-tier team. So it wasn't a case of not being good enough. It was more resting. And he was rested. Him and Guendouzi were both rested for a Europa League game in the league, and they drew 0-0. And the dimension and way Marseille were playing without them, they just looked lost because not only is Saliba one of the best defenders in the league. He's also very impressive in build-up. He actually, for Marseille, he was averaging the most passes a game. I think it was around 70 passes per game at like 90% accuracy. And those just aren't short passes. They're long diagonals and stuff. And obviously, to play in the Premier League, you've got to be good on the ball. And I think he's got those capabilities as well as his one-on-one defending, which is unbelievable too.
Okay. Just before we get into Arteta and everything else, was there anything else that you wanted to speak about on his time on loan? Because I thought his loan was a very successful loan. I thought his loan was very good for him. It got him a lot of game time. It got him a lot of experience. And overall, this was a very good learning point for him. Now, a lot of Arsenal fans would say he didn't need this loan. He could have played right away. Where do you stand on that? And also, what do you think about the loan itself? Because obviously he's been very good at Marseille.
Yeah, Well, from my point of view, the loan has helped his development, but that's not due to the fact of just going out on loan. I think that's just due to the fact the player he is. The more he plays, the more he's going to grow. Because I would argue, because I even watched him at San Etienne, which is who we brought him off and loaned him back to. I would have argued he was ready after that to play, but he spent 6 months in the under-23 squad and wasn't really playing. And they played, obviously, Mari and Kolasinac over him, who are no longer with us. And then he got loaned out to Nice, and he had a good loan, but injuries were a problem, and they have been a problem for him before this season. But he managed to get through this season injury-free, and I would say the loan has been successful because of how much he's improved, and if we wanted to tell him his value has gone up. But I would argue Arsenal didn't need to spend the £50 million on Ben White and could have had him playing in that place, and that money could have went on maybe a centre forward, another goal outlet, which would have pushed Arsenal over the line into that top four finish.
Okay, so since you brought it up, let's talk about it. Ben White, people comparing Ben White and Saliba because Saliba obviously was already here. Ben White was bought for 50 million. Are you saying we didn't need Ben White, or are you saying, you know what, Ben White, since he's here, you might actually start him? You might start him and Gabriel, or Ben White and Saliba. What do you think next year? Who do you think next season's partnership is? Centre back partnership, if he is still here.
If he's still here, I honestly think Gabriel. Part of me wants to say Gabriel would be the one that's replaced because I think raw defensively, I think Ben White and Saliba are the best. But the only problem that lies there is they're both right-footed, and when you're trying to build up, you want a left footer on the left, a right footer on the right, because it helps the angles and the passes you're trying to create. But Saliba did play at left centre-back for the majority of his first loan, which was with San Etienne. So he can play from the left. But I think it's whether Arteta would be happy with the right footer on the left. But equally, you've got to bring form into it. If Saliba comes in and isn't playing well, then he should go to the bench and it should be Gabriel and White. But if Gabriel's not playing well, Saliba should replace him, etc. So I think to start the season, I think it'll be Gabriel and White again because obviously Saliba's the new one. But then I think rotation will come into it. Obviously, we're in the Europa League. There's going to be cup games where these players can prove themselves and then hopefully stake a claim to play in the league games too.
There you go. Big up to everyone in the chat. Do me a favor. We got 54 of you guys in the chat. Hit that like button and also vote in the poll. If you can do me that favor, that really helps the channel out a lot. Sam, I can see behind you. You got that frame Saliba shirt. Is that the one that Saliba got signed for you?
Yeah. So he sent it to me, all signed and stuff, and then I paid for a frame, and then you can't see here, but I've got like the writing under it, basically saying like William Saliba shirt signed, and then some photos of him in there. So once I get around to it, I'm going to put that up on my wall to go alongside my my Lacazette one. And speaking of Lacazette, I've been seeing today that he's finalised the move to Lyon, going back to the club he used to play for.
You know what? I was literally going to get onto that later, but since you brought it up, we can talk about it right now. What do you think about the fact that Lacazette will most likely be going back and leaving? I think Lacazette, it's time. He was going to leave regardless, and the fact that he's going back to Lyon is no surprise to me. I don't think it's a big talking point, really. Lacazette has been a decent servant for the club. Obviously, he hasn't been a great servant because we haven't had great time at the club overall, but I wouldn't put it all down to him. He was our player of the season 1 year. Overall, I would say Lacazette's time at Arsenal. Would you call him a flop?
I wouldn't quite say a flop because he was getting goals. He was very helpful in the FA Cup win. I would say, rather than flop, I would say he was underwhelming because we were tracking him for all those years, and then we finally got him, and he wasn't that 20-goal-a-season striker we thought he could be.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And I think, you know what, there was times where he was good, but I think the back end of his career at Arsenal, he really slowed down. And like, just to think about it, Benzema's older than him, and we've seen how he's been playing.
Yeah.
And to think Lacazette has lost all his pace, lost all his explosiveness, and he's really just like, he's only link-up player at this point. He's not really scoring goals. He's not really doing much. What do you really think about Lacazette? Because I know you must be frustrated with him, just like I am.
Yeah, it is frustrating because when he first came in, he was a very good finisher. If he was in front of goal, you put your money on him to score 9 times out of 10. But not only did he lose the pace he had, so he couldn't run in behind, he was more of a hold-up striker. He started missing really big chances as well. And when you're missing those chances, a few passes in the build-up aren't really valued because, for instance, this season, I can't remember the individual games, but I remember one, I think it was v Burnley at home, Arsenal drew 0-0. He missed quite virtually an open goal in that. And it's the moments like that which have cost Arsenal top 4. Rather than looking at the games at the end of the season, I would look at some of the games throughout in which it was Burnley home that Arsenal lost, Brighton home, I think we lost 2-1, Crystal Palace away. And I wouldn't really put the main part of the problem on that Tottenham game, because if you look at our record away at Tottenham, I'm not sure of the year, but we haven't won away there in a long, long time. So that's not the reason we didn't get top 4. I would say it's more the reason of those games where Arsenal were maybe drawing instead of winning, like Crystal Palace, like Burnley, like Brighton, like Southampton, because those are the sort of teams, if you want to be top 4, you've got to be beating them comfortably.
There you go. There's not much else to be said about the Lacazette stuff, but I just found the article from Gunner Blog, and where he's talking about it on the Athletic, just to show everybody. Can confirm reports from France that Alexandre Lacazette has agreed to return to Lyon on a free transfer. The deal would bring the end to a 5-year spell at Arsenal for Lacazette. So there you go, guys. That's the Lacazette thing. Let us know in the comment section what you guys thought about Lacazette's time at Arsenal. I personally think if I was to rate it out of 10, I would give it a pass, but I would probably go 6 or 7. I wouldn't be giving him any higher than that. I think that some people would say is generous. But before we go into any more transfers, let's just get back to the Saliba thing quickly. Talking about Saliba's future, I've been seeing rumors of him possibly being linked going back to Marseille. Do you think that's more on the Marseille side than the Arsenal side? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I've obviously been reading a lot, doing a lot of the reading. I think most of those rumors are coming from the Marseille side, but ultimately, it's a very tough decision for all parties, because Arteta's not going to want a player who's going to be unhappy with the role he's got. So if he's not happy to play this rotation, and maybe Arsenal will have to cash in, but then it comes a problem. Marseille are not a club with an awful lot of money. They managed to evade the transfer ban. So a lot of people say they can't sign anyone this summer, but that's rubbish. They can sign whoever they like. But I think the money might be a problem, because I think if we're being honest, Saliba's at least a 45 million pound player, bare minimum.
Hold on. When did their transfer ban get overturned?
It was about 3 days ago. It was made public that there's going to be a hearing throughout next season, because it might come in next summer, but Marseille are fighting to not have the ban at all.
Okay, so this is what I've seen. Marseille are cleared to try to sign William Saliba. So they've been cleared from their transfer ban. So now that they've been cleared from their transfer ban, they can try to sign him, and they want to sign him for like as cheap as 30 million, I heard. So realistically, Arsenal are not going to sell him for that much money. Well, he's at least a 50-70 million pound player now.
Yeah, I would agree. But as I said earlier, the problem might be if he doesn't want to sign a new contract, Arsenal might be forced into accepting a bid at a lower value, because if they don't sell him this summer, there's only going to be 12 months left on his deal next season, and then clubs might wait and try and get him for free. So instead of selling him for 30 million, you're not getting anything for him at all. So if he doesn't want to sign that contract, Arsenal might be forced to sell him.
Wow. That would be a nightmare scenario, honestly. Nightmare scenario. And that comes down to Mikel Arteta, because a lot of people would say it's Arteta's fault that Saliba is even questioning his future at Arsenal, and he should have maybe given him a chance. Do you put this down on Arteta? And the thing that most of the time I see online is people speaking about the treatment of Saliba and how he's been treated by the manager. I personally think the loan was a good thing, and he got a lot of experience, and it was a good thing. But do you think sending him on loan 3 successive times, Do you put that on the manager or the board? How do you gauge that?
Well, I think ultimately the decision would come down to the manager, because if a manager wants a player in his 11, he would. And in all fairness, I defend the first two loans. I think the Saint-Etienne loan was all fair. The Nice loan should have been done 6 months earlier. It should have been done that summer, because the 6 months he spent with our under-23s, it probably wasn't much great value. The loan to Marseille obviously has helped him announce himself to the world, but the problem is Arteta at the start of this season didn't have the confidence in him. Saliba came out himself and said Arteta told him he wasn't ready, and he judged him off 1.5 games. Now, as a player, hitting your confidence like that, you're not going to like the manager. So for the same manager to want him to come back next season, Saliba might think on his side, well, he didn't want to have me then. So if Marseille love me and they're willing to do all this for me, then maybe I should play there where I feel more valued.
Iga, he's gone. It's over. Arteta made Holding third choice over Saliba. You know what? That is something I hear a lot. That Arteta picked Holding over Saliba. For me, the way I view it is Arteta trusts people that he's already had in his plans, and Holding might not have been high in his pecking order, but he's already seen him play and perform to a certain level. Where Saliba, the unknown, kind of, you don't want to put too much pressure on yourself as a manager, as an up and coming manager. That is, let's be honest, the pressure was heavy on Arteta, and if he played Saliba, it would have been a risk that he wasn't willing to take at the time. Think about it. That's why he bought Ben White. That's why instead of letting David Luiz leave and bringing Saliba in, that would have been the perfect David Luiz replacement. But he viewed it as, we need to spend 50 million. We need to get someone permanently proven. And I somewhat understand it. I think all 3 loans were there's parts of it that made me question, why are we loaning him out the third time? But there's parts of me saying, you know what, this is good for him. He's never played 30 plus games. As you know, how many games did he play this season? And minutes, like, he played ridiculous amount of minutes in games. I don't know if you still have those stats that you said.
In the league, he played, I believe it was 36 games. The one game he was rested in for a European game, and the other game was their final game of the season. He was suspended because in Ligue 1 you only need to have 5 yellow cards throughout the season to miss a game. So wow. He missed their final game, but thankfully they managed to qualify for the Champions League in that, which may help them in re-signing Saliba, because from his perspective, he grew up in France, obviously, where Marseille are one of the biggest clubs, and he's now played for them, and they're in the Champions League. But Arsenal want him to come and play rotation and be in the Europa League, whereas at Marseille he was, well, one of the first names on the team sheet every week, and that's going to be Champions League football next season.
Talking about Champions League football, do you think that's the problem? Do you think them having Champions League football and us being the Europa League is another reason in why we might lose out on the player?
Yeah, I think that's a massive problem. I think if Marseille were not in the Champions League, one, I don't think their projects would be as attractive to him, because he could play Europa League here. But now, not only that, they're going to have a lot more money too. You get a lot more money qualifying for the Champions League than the Europa League. So they might not have 50, 55 million if that's what we value them at. But if reports are true and it's around 30 to 35 million, they are going to have that sort of money. So if ultimately they do want him and he wants to go there, I think it is a move that will happen.
Let me ask you and everybody in the comment section, how much do you really believe Saliba's worth? Because in my opinion, if all these young center backs are being linked for such ridiculous prices, he's better than Upamecano at this moment in time. That buy a lot. He's better than majority of these young center backs that a lot of people have in the league. People would say he's better than Ben White, so he's automatically worth more than 50 million in my opinion. And the fact that he is already in the French setup, getting capped for France, even though it's friendlies, I would say maybe 70 mil on the high end. But the fact that we only have 2 years remaining, maybe then you could put it to 55, 50 mil. But for me, anything under 50 mil, I'm going to say to myself, we're kind of losing a gem here.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Maybe I'm being biased, but if we put the contract aside and talk about his value as a footballer, I would personally be saying 60, 70 million pounds, because you look at some of the players who are talked about at the moment. You've got Jules Koundé, who's linked with Chelsea, 50, 60 million. Saliba's I would argue just as good as him, both playing in the French senior team. Obviously, as you said, Dayot Upamecano went to Bayern Munich. I'm not sure how much it was, but before he went there were talks of him moving to Arsenal and Liverpool for around 50 million. So if you're talking about those players in that respect, I would say Saliba's comfortably a £60 million player. But once you factor in that contract, and he might want to leave with only 2 years left, I think that reduces it to 30 or 35 million. So we might have a big problem on our hands.
So is this what makes you question the manager when you see stuff like this? Or is it more what's on the pitch? Getting back to Arsenal quickly and talking about Arteta, because a lot of people put the Saliba situation on Arteta's head and say that's one of the main reasons why we don't like him. Another thing is obviously performances on the pitch, and people say, you know what, Ben White cost us in the game against Newcastle. We see Saliba performing and getting his team to Champions League football. Maybe we should have kept him and we would be in Champions League. What do you think about that? Like, it's more about the question about the manager.
My problem, a lot of people assume my problem with Arteta lies just because of how I rate Saliba, but that's completely false, because I don't rate Arteta because of a factor of things both on and off the field, because I gave credit to him for his FA Cup. That was a very good achievement when he came in, but we didn't build on that. And if you're giving a manager as much as we've given him, and he spent, I'm not sure, I'm not going to say the figures because I might be wrong, but it's in the excess of 200 million. That's what I'm aware of. To spend that and come, I'll disregard the first season because Emery was here, but then to have an 8th and a 5th with the amount of money he spent, I find it hard to justify. And some of the decisions off the pitch as well. I'm not just talking about Saliba, but I don't have an issue with him selling players, but the amount of players he's publicly fallen out with is a big problem, because there was the falling out with Guendouzi, the falling out with Aubameyang, and then a lot of people don't remember, he even stopped Maitland-Niles from leaving, so much so that Maitland-Niles posted to his social media begging for a move, and that's unheard of in football. So for that to happen, I think it's a big concern of how many players he's fallen out with.
Okay, I hear that. And talking about players that he's fallen out with, just before we went live, we were just discussing a strange tweet from what's his name, Guendouzi, and I just want to show everyone what I'm talking about, because when I seen this, I first thing I thought was like, why would he tweet this out? It kind of looks like it's a hint that he might be coming back to Arsenal and he's saying goodbye, and even the fans that are responding to him on his Instagram were saying stuff like, we love you, goodbye, and like, it's like, why are they saying goodbye to him? I thought they've already bought in him and they've already triggered the clause to buy him. But maybe you know a little bit more than I do. What do you think about what's going on with Guendouzi? Is he staying, or is he?
I think it was just rather than a case of mistranslation. I think the same words have like a different meaning in France. It was just like a general end of season, a thank you for welcoming me to an incredible season, because a lot of people aren't aware, in Guendouzi's loan, there was, because Arsenal wanted to get rid of him, but Marseille couldn't afford him that summer, Arsenal gave a loan with an obligation. And the obligation was, there we go, is the tweet you've got up there from Fabrizio. The obligation, well, it says 38 games there, but as far as I'm aware, it was if Marseille avoided relegation, he had to sign there permanently, which obviously they did. They came second in the league, which was very impressive. So some people are still wondering, but there's 0% chance Guendouzi plays another game for Arsenal Football Club, unless obviously they were to re-sign him, but that's definitely not going to happen, especially with Arteta remaining as the manager.
Are you upset about that? Because I know you're a big fan of Guendouzi also. Like, when it comes to Guendouzi, what's your stance on the whole situation?
Yeah, I'm very upset, because he's a player. I think we all saw from day one how much he cared for the club, and we all saw he had ability. And I just think the ability, when you have a player who's maybe got a fiery character, we've got to remember he was 18 or 19 years old, so that's still a kid. He had time to mature. I think you've got to work alongside those players and put your arm around them. So I think that's why Marseille has been a perfect club for him, because the manager, Sampaoli, is a very fiery character as well. So I thought that would work one of two ways. Either there could be a massive falling out, or they'd love each other. And it's definitely worked the second, because Guendouzi's been Marseille's most used player. And after the game in which they qualified for the Champions League, the first thing Guendouzi did, he hugged the manager, he lifted him up, and it's clear that they really get on well. And it's obviously sad to see Arsenal miss out on a talent like that, because I've been convinced for a while, and a lot of people don't agree. I think Guendouzi's going to become one of the best midfielders in the world, because he's a fixture in this France team too now. people aren't seeing, but he's getting in the senior squad over Camavinga. And you're looking at a player in Camavinga who's won the Champions League, had an okay season at Real Madrid where he has been able to come on, he's impressed. But Guendouzi is rated higher in this France setup by Didier Deschamps than Camavinga.
Wow. I didn't view it that way. I viewed it as Didier Deschamps might be looking at Guendouzi as a player who plays a little bit more forward than Camavinga, and Camavinga might be someone who plays a little bit deeper. So let's look at it this way. They have a lot of players that can play in that Conte, Camavinga. So Guendouzi can play in that 8 role, and they use 2 8s. Am I not wrong with the French setup? So yeah, I watch France a lot, so I kind of see where you're coming from, but I get you. People are saying Guendouzi, the price that we're selling him for is a joke. Well, if I'm not mistaken, his last loan didn't go so well. So
yeah, at Hertha Berlin, I think he scored 1 goal. I'm not sure if he got any assists, but yeah, the loan there really wasn't good. But the loan to Marseille, I think it's not like people have to not consider it as a loan. It was more of a sale last summer because Arsenal wanted to wipe their hands of Guendouzi. So it's not a case of he went on loan and we're only selling him for 8 million after this season. The price was agreed before this season. So as much as obviously I think he's worth so much more, I think to say we're selling him for this much when he's done this is unfair. You have to look at before the loan, which I would argue before the loan he was still a 20-25 million pound player, because you see these players that other clubs are selling, like Liverpool sold Ryan Brewster for 30 million, Jordan Ibe for 30 million, and Arsenal are just not effective at selling players. I think Guendouzi we could have got at least 20 or 25 million pounds for, but instead we got 8.
100% agree. I think it's criminal the prices that we sell some of our players for. We sell them for too cheap. But guys, you know what else is criminal? You guys only have 30 likes and there's almost 100 of you guys in the chat. Let's hit that like button, guys, because we have 115 people voting in the poll, but we only have 33 likes. It's absolutely free, guys. It helps the channel out a lot. Hit that like button right now and let us know whatever questions you have throughout the video. At this moment in time, the poll, we have 67% of you guys say yes, Saliba will be playing at Arsenal next season. 33% of you say no, he will be leaving Arsenal next season. So let's see. But guys, hit that like button. Let's get to 50 likes before we get to the next question. But right now, let me just go quickly shift over. Let me ask you this. Do you see all these rumors from Italian journalists about silly things with Juventus and Gabriel Magalhaes and Gabriel Martinelli? It just seems like anything that comes out of Italian journalism, I can't believe, because they're now saying Arthur Melo could be considered in a swap deal for Gabriel Martinelli. Now, I know that's never going to happen in a million years. I know that's absolutely ridiculous, but let me just show everybody what I'm talking about, because this right here actually had me laughing. Never in a million years will this happen. But they constantly come up with the nonsense, and they put it out there. Why do you think these Italians take it serious, or this is just a joke? Like, I never see Arsenal getting linked for dumb deals. Maybe the 41 million. No, the Luis Suarez deal. That's the last time I seen something stupid from Arsenal. But yeah, what do you think about these deals? Like, it's just dumb, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not too sure about them. I know in Italy they're quite big on like swap deals for players, like players swapping clubs, but like what I don't understand why they think Arsenal would want Arthur for Martinelli. But maybe the case was because we were interested in Arthur in January and nothing materialized. Maybe Arsenal said we want him in the summer, and that's why Juve are offering him, because it wouldn't just be a straight swap between him and Martinelli. There would obviously be money as well, but for me, I don't see any logical reason why we do that, because Arthur's not young either anymore. I'm not 100% sure for how old he is, but he's not like 24, 23 or young like that.
In my opinion, the way I view it as is absolute nonsense, and they're just literally just linking. They're just over there in Turin, they have journalists that they pay, and they just they make the most silliest rumors and the most silliest things. Like, I remember they said something about Pate in a swap deal for Arthur. They said something about Gabriel Magalhaes in a swap deal for Arthur. It just seems like whenever they want a player from Arsenal, they just link him to a swap deal for one of their players that they're not even starting. They did a Kulusevski swap deal for Pate remember that? So
yeah,
these things, we can't take them serious. But yeah, bringing it back to some more serious matters. have you seen the Tielemans stuff? Because it seems like it's very much more. It's becoming more and more likely that we're going to get Tielemans. And I'm seeing stuff that Fabrizio Romano said, where it's like he said something across the lines that it looks like the deal is more likely going to be getting done very, very soon, and it's the club is looking to tie him down in the coming weeks. We've made him a priority. So Fabrizio Romano said Yuri Tielemans is a priority for Arsenal. Arsenal are expected to bid next week unless there's any changes to the strategy. So yeah, let me know what you think about this right here.
Yeah, no, I saw that, and I also saw that John Cross from the Mirror, who's I'm not too sure, I believe he's quite reliable, also said that we're confident of getting a deal done for £35 million. And well, for me, I'm not the biggest fan of Tielemans. I think he lacks a lot of mobility, and also if you're looking in our team, a midfield of Partey, Tielemans, and Odegaard for me wouldn't work because there's not enough defensive ability in that. I think if Tielemans was to come in, he would possibly be maybe backup / rotation for Odegaard. But then it worries me. This is money I'd rather be putting in a big name striker who's going to score us goals.
Yeah, so that's the article you've seen, right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. I you know what? I agree with you. I think Tielemans it does lack the mobility, and imagine, God forbid, we ever had to play him and Xhaka together, right? But when it comes to Tielemans, the thing is, imagine if he's in a team where he has the game in front of him. I would view him as similar to like a Jorginho, a player who, when on the ball, technically has the ability to do so much. Off the ball, though, we have. We got a super chat. I'm gonna get to that in a second, Nathan. But off the ball, kind of, I'm worried about his back to goal. Definitely, I'm worried. But do you feel like his positioning, if his positioning is correct, off the ball, you can forget about the mobility for a second. As long as his positioning is good off the ball, it will still help us. Or are you worried that he's gonna become like a Xhaka situation?
Yeah, I'm quite worried because I don't watch an awful lot of Leicester, but from what I do watch, he's not like the strongest tackler or things. So even if he is in that midfield, I'm worried he's going to get bullied a lot like Odegaard does. Because when I've been watching Arsenal, for me, Odegaard loses far too many duels. He's very weak in battles. And I'm just worried Tielemans is going to be a similar sort of player. Whereas in possession, they're fine. They're good at moving the ball. But out of possession, you're almost down the man when you play them.
Yeah. No. So if he joins, would you say, you know what, he's going to be a bad signing, or would you say you're just indifferent of him at this moment in time?
I wouldn't say he'd be a bad signing, but I wouldn't want him to be one of the main signings. I'd want us to put more money into a winger who can score goals, as well as a striker who can as well. And the problem is we also need fullbacks on both sides for me, because at left back, Tierney's never fit, and Tavares obviously is a bit of a disaster that you don't want to be playing. And on the right, Tomiyasu, I don't know what his injury record was in Italy, but for us, it's been really bad. And again, Cedric isn't someone you want to be playing on a consistent basis.
You know what? I have so many talking points on that. There's Hickey, there's Zinchenko. There's so many guys we're linked to in those positions. Like when it comes down to people who can play in that 8, who can play in that left back position. What do you think about those guys? Because I'm thinking Hickey, that deal. I'm hearing that deal is more likely to be almost done. Zinchenko to Arsenal is heating up every single day, but at the same time, City are trying to hold on to him also. So we don't know what's going to happen with that. Are you a fan of any of those two signings, Zinchenko or Hickey?
I think Zinchenko would be a good signing because he's obviously Premier League proven. He can play either side on fullback, or he can play midfield because he was a midfielder at Shakhtar when Manchester City brought him, and he was midfielder last night for Ukraine v Scotland, and he played very well. So that's a signing I would be happy with. On the Hickey one, again, I'm not going to say too much because I don't watch Bologna. I don't know too much about him. He wasn't very good yesterday, and I saw a lot of Scottish fans were really not happy with him. But, I mean, he is going to be backup, so he's young. I would hope the club aren't going to invest money in someone who's just not good at anything. So I think Zinchenko and Hickey would be two good fullback signings because Hickey's I forgot the actual statistic, but like he plays the most amount of passes with his weak foot in the Serie A or something. So he's very he's very two-footed. He can play on both sides, which is obviously useful to have because then it almost takes away a backup that you need because he can cover both areas and you can spend money and wages elsewhere.
Boom. Let's go to the super chat here. Big up, Nathan. Big up to you. He says, where do you think Pepe will end up? And also, guys, do me a favor, hit that like button right now. We have 116 of you guys in the chat. Really do appreciate it. But we only have 48 likes. We could easily get up to 60 right now if half of you guys hit that like button. But yeah, I think Pepe personally is going to be leaving. I think Pepe's project at Arsenal is done. But what do you think about Pepe's project at Arsenal? And do you think he'll be leaving this coming summer?
Oh, I'm in complete agreement. I don't think there's a chance he's at Arsenal next summer because him and the manager obviously don't get on. But one thing I would give Pepe props for, he's never once spoke out and complained. When he's come on, he's played his games. I think more at the start of the season, he was putting up good numbers in the cups when he played. He also turned the game around with Wolves. He got an assist and a goal. But as far as next season, I've seen he's linked once again with Marseille, because Arsenal and Marseille like doing business together. And he was obviously successful in the French league. I've seen he's also linked with AC Milan, which I think would be a very good move for him. I think the Serie A would suit him. So from rumours, all I can see is either Marseille or AC Milan. But I'm sure once we come to the summer, more clubs will come in because Arsenal won't charge much. I think they'd accept like 25 million for him.
Oh, this is a nice comment. Iga, I'm a sports supporter. I like the way you have to hold. What? You're funny. You're funny. I should have read the whole thing before I started reading it. Eddie Nketiah. Eddie Nketiah's contract has really gotten a lot of people upset. How do you feel about Eddie Nketiah's contract? And I'm not one to say what people are worth. Get your money. Professional careers, you only can get your money in a short time period. You have a short career. I'm never going to stop somebody from eating food and getting paid well. But my question is, did the club have to pay him 100K a week? Probably not. And are they actually paying him 100K a week? We don't know until the figures actually come out. At this moment in time, everything is reports. But for me, I have no issue with Eddie Nketiah getting paid to a certain degree because as a football club, with the amount of wages that we give out to players and how we have things, we got put in a situation where the player had all the power and we wanted to keep him. And in a year's time, if we want to get rid of him, we could possibly still get rid of him if he performs to a certain level. So I'm not too worried with Eddie Nketiah's contract. And I'm hearing reports that it's only really 70 million plus bonuses, but they're making it seem like it's 110. What do you think?
I think I don't mind him being offered a new deal because obviously even if we sign a striker, we need that backup because as we've seen, people get injured and you've got to have good backup because ultimately it was injuries, I think, which cost Arsenal a lot to Partey, to Tierney. But with Nketiah, I think we were right to give him a new contract. And as long as that money doesn't prevent us from signing other players or paying out big contracts if we want to bring in big players, it's not really a problem to me. So I don't mind him being given the contract as long as it's not limiting us in the window.
There you go. As long as it's not limiting us in the window. Now, Gabriel Jesus is the other striker that we're linked to heavily. My question to you is 45, 55, somewhere in between there. Do you really think Gabriel Jesus could lead the line for Arsenal? And would you have a problem with him being our only striker signing in the summer window? Because that seems like that's what's going to end up happening at this moment in time. Gabriel Jesus seems to be the only striker signing that we're linked to, and the rest of the links have pretty much gone cold. Tammy Abraham's gone cold. Osimhen's gone cold. Isaac, we said forget about it after the summer. We know what happened with Vlahovic. Scamacci, I don't think we're actually seriously linked to him, but Sassuolo are looking to sell him. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I don't want nothing to do with him personally. I don't know about you. Richarlison, same thing. I don't really want nothing to do with him. So yeah, those are Rashford. No one wants Rashford. But yeah, from all those players that we're linked to, Gabriel Jesus seems to be the best out of a bad bunch. Premier League experience, 4-time Premier League winner. What do you think about Gabriel Jesus?
Yeah, I would like Jesus because obviously I think ultimately the deal would be done for like maybe 35 million because of the contract, and Man City are just trying to get as much as they can. I would be happy with signing him, but prior to the last few games, he was more playing for Man City as I think he was off the right wing and he can play off the left. So if we were to sign Jesus, I would still want a striker, like a proper number 9. And for me, the players I would want mostly are, there were links to him a couple of weeks ago. Apparently, we met with his agent, is Victor Osimhen. But the other one for me is someone who's been in the Prem this season. It's actually Ivan Toney that I would really want at Arsenal.
You've seen my tweets probably. I want Ivan Toney also, man. But I would take him in a heartbeat. But the thing is, I don't think we're linked to Ivan Toney. I don't think we are linked to Ivan Toney. The links for Ivan Toney have only been speculatory links when he got a hat trick that game. After that game, then he got a hat trick before the Leicester game at home. That's when we were linked to him. But I looked at the actual links, and it wasn't that the club were actually seriously interested in him. It was that the club were considering him as an option. That's it. So when somebody says they're considering him as an option, I don't think there's any actual legs to it. This deal with Gabriel Jesus, Arteta's already worked with him, right? Edu's already worked with his agent, trying to get him to the Brazilian team. Man City and Arsenal have already spoken. They haven't spoken, but the player and Arsenal have spoken, and he's very interested in joining Arsenal, even without Champions League football. So are you okay with Arsenal only having Eddie Nketiah and Gabriel Jesus as their strikers next season?
I personally, no. I still want another striker because I think we need a striker because out of them, no striker of them, because Arsenal went in, he's fit, play with a lot of crosses, and those, I know Jesus scores a few headers, but those aren't strikers who are going to get above the centre-back and win the ball and knock it down if we want to go long, which is what I think Ivan Toney brings, which is why we maybe not link with him fully, but the summer window's long, many things can happen. So in an ideal window for me, it would be the attacking signings would be Jesus and Ivan Toney. But if we sign just Jesus, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world up front.
Yeah. You know what? This is crazy. We're literally thinking alike, because I personally want Ivan Toney. I would take those two in a heartbeat, but I don't think we're getting a second striker. I think what's going to happen is we're going to get a left winger. And for me, the left winger options that we have currently are either Cody, Gakpo, or Serge Gnabry. So I know the Serge Gnabry deal seems like the one that everyone would want to go for and the realistic one, but I think Gakpo is as realistic as Gnabry at this moment in time. So what do you think about those two deals?
Yeah, obviously I would be a big believer in Gnabry. I think if Arsenal want to push to that level, you're not going to do it through signing players who haven't achieved at the top stage, which is why I think signing people like Jesus and signing Gnabry would be perfect, because Gnabry can play off both sides as well. He can play off the left, he can play off the right. He's had a lot of success at Bayern. He's played very well with the English teams as well. When he's played in the Champions League, he scored, I think, 4 v Tottenham over both games.
Just one moment, bro. Guys, don't forget to hit that like button right now and let us know in the chat, who would you rather have, Gnabry or Gakpo? Gakpo will cost around 30 million. Gnabry will cost around, 35, 40? So
yeah, I don't think Gnabry so much, because his contract, it's another contract situation as well. So if Arsenal can convince him, because I've read up, apparently the thing stalling him signing it at Bayern is not the money, but it's the fact of him wanting to feel valued and maybe in the first 11, because with Bayern signing Mane, maybe Gnabry's not in their best 11. So maybe he wants to come to a club where he is going to be almost guaranteed that place. And I think at Arsenal, he'd be one of our star players.
Definitely. He would be a statement signing if we were to get him, and he's a bargain. 40 million euros? That's amazing, honestly. And what about Gakpo? Would you consider Gakpo as a signing? Because I personally, I haven't watched enough of him, but from what I've seen, he's kind of like Mo Salah, where he's like an inside forward that scores goals. He's more of like an inside forward that scores goals. He's very clinical. He's a good finisher. He definitely would offer us a lot of goals from that position. He's not a winger who creates a lot of chances or gets and blows by people like Eden Hazard. He's more of a finisher. So I think that would suit us, with Bukayo Saka being the creator and him being the finisher. But what do you think about Gakpo?
Yeah, I haven't watched loads of PSV this season, but from watching them, he is a good winger. He'll play off that left, and he's someone who, maybe he's not the quickest, but he's got a deceiving amount of strength on the ball. He can hold off that fullback and he can turn on it. And obviously his finishing's very good as well. So he is that winger who could, if it clicks in the Premier League, help us with 10, 12, 15 goals even. So I think I think him or Gnabry would be a very good signing to play mostly off the left. Then you've got your Jesus or Nketiah through the middle, and you can play Saka on the right, and obviously you can swap and change in game and things. So I think signing Gakpo, Jesus, and Gnabry would be very good for Arsenal.
There you go. And yeah, just a random question though to end it before we end it off. Who's your favorite player at Arsenal right now? Is it Bukayo Saka?
Out the players of the squad, I would probably say Saka, but I'm leaning on the side. I think he's not as good as as nearly everyone makes out, because to be one of the best players as people make out, you've got to be able to deliver at all times. And the part that got to me was the end of this season. I think his production really dropped a lot, and people won't like hearing this, but ultimately he was one of the reasons Arsenal didn't get top four, because he was producing throughout the season. But then when the tough really got going, he just seemed quite ineffective and unable to play his game to the usual standards.
Wow. That is harsh words right there. To say he's one of the reasons. You know what? I think it's a collective of everybody. I wouldn't just put it only on Saka, but I hear where you're coming from. Also, what do you look at? Do you view the season as a disappointment, failure? What word would you use to describe the season as a whole?
I would say, as a supporter, it was a big disappointment. But I actually did some reading that the internal aim from the board for Arteta was actually only Europa League, and when Edu was asked at the start of the season, he didn't want to say this publicly because he knew how the fans would react. But the club only set Arteta to qualify for Europe again. But for me, the season is a massive disappointment, because to go out of every cup competition so early and then still not be able to bring top four across the line, I think is a big disappointment. And I think any other club having a season of that caliber followed by last season, I think the manager would have been long gone.
Okay, I see that. Now let me just ban this guy in the chat. Okay, moving on. I'm just thinking. I don't even want to talk about Torreira or Matt Turner or any of those guys, because it just feels like it would be a waste of our time discussing. Matt Turner did well for America yesterday or the other day. He got a clean sheet versus Morocco. Torreira probably is going to go back to Italy, so there's nothing really to be discussed there. We've already spoken about Arteta. We've spoken about who your best player is, the season review. Are you optimistic for the transfer window?
I would like to be optimistic, because I think if the club have set Arteta the aim of Europa League, then they've got to reward him with the window he wants, because he's met their internal aim. So I think the window will be one for Arsenal that is going to be key in their development, because people might think Arsenal are only 1 or 2 players away from top four because we were 3 points away or 2 points, whatever. But you've got to remember the other teams will improve. Tottenham will sign players. Chelsea will sign players. Man United with Ten Hag are going to sign players. So it's going to have to be a case of heavy investment from Arsenal if they do want to return to Champions League football.
Okay, there you go. And Thunder Road, you've been upgraded to a mod. Don't worry. And then anything else that anyone has? You said you had some stats for me. I don't want you to leave without having to mention them. What stats were those?
Yeah, so it's just a case of Saliba being Marseille's second most used player this season, which just shows how important he was and how he was always available for them. And he kept something like 20 clean sheets this season across all competitions, which for being the most used defender and the most trusted defender, I think is very good. And as I said, he was one of Marseille's key players, actually in each individual game, averaging 70 passes a game, which was maybe 10 above the next one, and completing these at a very good success rate too. So I think not only by watching him was he very good, and you can see that from watching him. You can see he plays like a 25, 26-year-old defender, but the numbers back it up too. Because what a lot of people do, they look at these pie charts that say he only makes 0.8 tackles a game and 1.6 interceptions or whatever. But from a defender, if you're only completing maybe 1 or 2 tackles a game, it's usually for a good reason. Because if you're defending a player well, you will use your body effectively and you'll make them pass backwards. You won't actually need to make a tackle.
I hear that 100%. And that's kind of like what he's doing. But that tackle, the tackling stats. Is he really like? Are his stats really up there with the best in the world right now? With everything, just like all his defensive statistics?
I don't believe so, but that's only if you look at the success rates and the percentages they are, but by looking at volume alone, by saying 1.4 tackles or whatever, that's not high at all because there's defenders. The best way to explain it is if you're playing against a team and the manager says, right, we want you to attack this defender because he's not very good, he's going to naturally make a lot of tackles because they're constantly running at him. But if you look at the best defenders, and the best example to use for this is Van Dijk, is teams are afraid to go near him. So he's not going to make a lot of tackles. But I don't know the actual figure, but Saliba's true tackle success rate was the best in Europe, which just shows when he is going to make a tackle, he does it for the right reasons and it is going to be successful.
Boom. And yeah, guys, I was just going to wrap it up there, bro. Is there anything that you wanted to say to me?
No, I think I've got everything I wanted off my chest.
Yeah, there you go. And definitely going to have you back before the end of the window to discuss some of the transfer deals that Arsenal do. And hopefully we can be as optimistic then as we are right now. But yeah, everyone have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful day in the chat. Big up to everybody who's been watching. We still have 134 of you guys in the chat. So go check out Sam on Twitter. If you guys want to find his Twitter is right there. Sam, AFC Sam with what is that, 4 M's or 5 M's?
Yeah, 4. I think the one with 3 got suspended for copyright, so I thought I'll just keep it simple, keep the same name and just add another M on.
Okay, there you go. And you guys have yourselves a wonderful, wonderful day. You already know what it is. It's the Kitty G on EGTV. I've been here with Sam, and you guys have yourself a wonderful day. Peace.